I was wondering if you could show us some karate.
God damn this karate, because I'll tell you what, we put it into the show as an afterthought. I mean, I just thought, oh, maybe it'd be funny if this guy thought that the idea of loving karate but never wanting to take any kind of like lesson, just feeling like he was born to perform.
Karate, do it.
I'm not gonna get up and do karate. I'm not a dancing monkey like Green Man over there. But yeah, it started very, very, very innocently, where I tried to kick the mirror off a car, and and he said something about, am I serious? And I said, it's the most serious thing. I've never been more serious in my entire life, and we kind of ran with it from there. But you'll have to tune in. I do a lot more of it this season.
When you were having trouble becoming established early in your career, what kept you motivated?
Just desperation. I mean, I wanted to make a living. I was living, I lived in New York for about 7 years, and was sort of working on and off, just doing commercials and a couple of voiceovers here and there, and then sort of small parts and like Law and Order and things like that. But I wasn't really making a living, and I moved out here, and the weather was nice, and it was a little bit less expensive, but I was still struggling. So I was running up debt on my credit card and not being able to pay rent, and I just thought, I gotta do something. I can't, because the problem with just acting is that you're going in and you're auditioning and you're relying on other people to give you jobs, and I just didn't want to rely on anybody else anymore. So out of desperation, I decided to start writing. The truth is that the show was struggling. We had only we only had 7 episodes the first season. It was on the middle of the night on FX, and nobody really knew about it. And we knew that we had to do something to get people to pay attention. And so we did almost get canceled, but John Landgraf, who's the president of FX, had an idea of adding a new character. And we were a little wary of that because we weren't sure how that was going to change the dynamic of the show, but he was friends with Danny. And he suggested him. So I went over to his house, and it turns out that Danny's kids were fans of the show. So I went over there and talked with him for a few hours and told him we'd really like to have him on the show, and he signed on, and he agreed. And he signed on for only 10 episodes. So we were just going to do 10 episodes, but I think he had fun that second season, and he stayed on from there.
Patty's Pub it's like the central part of the show, and oftentimes when you're watching, you kind of forget that. But it's such a disturbing place, and I was wondering why.
What? Why is it disturbing?
Like in the background, there's always someone like slumped over a table.
Yeah, well,
and all these terrible.
Have you been to a bar? How old are you? 22.
There's not. I don't know, like the Westwood bars. Are they like that? Are they?
Well,
like
Westwood.
Playing,
Come on.
There's no Russian roulette in the bars around here.
You guys ever been to a city?
Why did you choose a bar though? Like of all things.
Why do we choose the bar? We wanted to just find a vocation for the people to have their days free, essentially.
That's it.
That was it. That was it. And we felt like running a bar would allow them the opportunities to do things like put on plays, and you wouldn't question where their money came from. But they don't have any.
You mentioned the new show. Do you want to talk more about that and the process?
Yeah, well, we're doing a new show for Fox called Boldly Going Nowhere. It takes place in space, and we don't have a ton of time because of Sunny. We got picked up for 3 more years for Sunny, so we don't really have a lot of time. So we shot a pilot. We weren't 100% happy with it. We're going to do some reshoots, but we had to find somebody to run the show, and we found a guy named Larry Charles. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Larry Charles. He directed Borat and the upcoming Bruno, which I saw, and it's the funniest fucking movie I've seen in 10 years. And he's worked on Seinfeld and, really Entourage, really big shows, and so he's going to take over for us.
So I self-admittedly got into the show by watching it online and episodes that have been downloaded. How do you feel about that whole trend that the TV and movie industry has taken over the last year or so? That's
a good question. Not great. I mean, in a strange way, it's a double-edged sword because it's really helped us immensely. It's our audience has grown tenfold because it's so easily accessible now on Hulu, or it was. The problem is that nobody's making any money from it, and I totally understand and get that people in the entertainment business have been getting paid too well for too long. And I don't mean just the performers, although definitely the performers, but also the producers, the executives, I mean, everybody. And I feel like there is an answer in which people are not getting gouged, but people are not taking it for free. And I think that there is a happy medium. Unfortunately, you looked at the collapse of the music industry, and there are so many people who are not going to be able to support themselves as musicians anymore, and it's happening in the entertainment industry as well. And that is where things are headed right now. And that's unfortunate.